Hi, Naja. Welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, hi.
Welcome, welcome. Tracy, great to see you. Welcome. Yeah, here we are. Hi, Katja.
Hi, Matthew.
Jordan, nice to see
Jordan
you.
and Stephanie, good to see you
Welcome.
guys.
Hi.
Yeah. Ah. Yeah, it's good to see you and just arriving. This is going to be a very relaxed and warm session, so we have time just to begin to land together. Welcome, Tony. Good to see you. Good you could make it. Might have one or two more people dropping in the next few moments, few minutes, but just maybe taking a moment to scan the screen. No problem, Tracy, if you have to leave. Perhaps connecting with one or two of the other participants with your eyes. Noticing how you're feeling arriving in the space. We're all coming here from different time zones, different geographies. Some of us are starting the day. Some of us are slowly winding down. But there's an intention that has brought us all together to explore this question of how men and women's circles might help to transform culture.
Welcome, Nick. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah. So many of you obviously know me already, but for those who don't, I'm Matthew Green, and along with Jacob Kishere, I'm one of the co-founders of the Resonant Man Initiative, a men's circle that we started actually planning last April, but launched over the summer and are now meeting every week. And it's great to see some of you from our circle here today. And this is a big moment for us as Resonant Men. We've always been committed to dialogue with women as part of our men's circle. I sometimes joke that we're the first men's circle that admits women, and this is one of those sessions. And we're very honored to be joined today by Melinda Chandler, James Rothbard, and Jodi Newhall, who are representing She Became We, which is a network of ever evolving, ever expanding women's circles that we're going to be hearing more about in due course. Just to give you a little map of how the session is going to work, we're going to be together for about 90 minutes or so. We're going to take a moment in a few moments to have an attunement so we can all land together. Then there'll be some dialogue, starting with representatives of our respective groups and then broadening for everyone to engage in. But before we start to dive into that, I'd love to hear the voices of some of our fellow participants, Jem, Melinda, Jodi. Would you like to say hi and maybe say a few words about She Became We before we dive in?
Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you. Here in Costa Rica in the heat, and just really feeling into the excitement of being able to collaborate in this beautiful way. Yeah, there's so much to say about She Became We and the beauty of its growth. I think it really did start from the desire for community, for connection. And so being able to share this story and to drop in with all of you through a really present moment feels like it's such a big blessing, knowing that the message is expanding and evolving, as we say, that She Became We is growing, not just as a circle, but as as a big message of how powerful community is for us, especially right now.
Thank you, Melinda. And the thinking for us on the Resonant Man side of the event was that we're obviously working in an all-male group. We really understand the value of that space, how it serves us to show up differently in our relationships, in our creative lives, how we are in our families, our communities, our workplaces. We felt that by coming into dialogue with a women's group, we could, in a way, understand more about our own process and also about, frankly, what is happening in the women's spaces, because I'm super curious to understand more about what happens on the other side of the house, and then explore the core intention of this gathering, which is to understand how can this work that we do separately come back together and then really contribute to the kind of cultural transformation that we all know is necessary for us to start living into the kind of futures that we really want to embrace, whether that's personally in our relationships or at higher scales as well. So we'll have plenty of time to explore, but just to land and really arrive in our bodies and start to drop into the kind of coherence as a group that will really evoke and invite collective intelligence that we often feel animating our gatherings, really allow that collective intelligence to start to flow. I'm going to invite us all to join an attunement that my colleague and co-pilot Jacob will start to lead us into to help us arrive, land, and really gain all that is available from this unique opportunity we have to come together in this way today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. And again, extending a warm welcome to everybody who's joining us here today. This is obviously a very poignant dialogue, and the more poignant the dialogue, the more important that we create the right kind of space for it within ourselves, within our nervous systems, within our bodies, and in relationship to one another. So it's in that spirit that we are just going to take a few minutes here to start dropping into our breath, connecting with the next few inhalations, and feeling welcome to close your eyes if that feels aligned for you. Just allowing a little bit of a break with the momentum of your day thus far. And as you breathe in, really letting yourself honor this moment, honor the crossing of a threshold into a new space. And really taking some time to invite all of yourself to take that step with you, to bring all of your being, all of your parts, knowing that your wholeness is a gift to this greater whole that is just beginning to emerge today. Just taking a moment to sink a little deeper into your embodied intelligence. letting go of any sense of urgency to arrive, to resolve. And just letting the space to be here together start to grow within you. And when you're ready, you can begin to expand that sensing and that space beyond yourself. Beginning with the space around you, the room around you. And perhaps from there sensing into a larger whole, a larger field of sacred presence within which this dialogue is occurring. So at this juncture, I also want to invite any words from our wonderful guest co-hosts today.
Well, one of the powerful ways to resonate with the space is to bring a deep breath into the body. And as you exhale, make a sound. Sigh. Just release the sound so that we're sitting in a space of coherence with the body, the breath, and sensing this beautiful circle that we've created together. And as you land in your breath more deeply with each inhale and exhale, trusting in the safety of this space, to play, be curious, and to keep the communication open and soft with gratitude.
And finally, as we start to draw together as a group, just noting the newness of this experience. Many of you here have been participating in men's or women's circles, and all of us have a relationship to the polarities, dance and play between us. Just making space for all of that to be here too. And yeah, super excited to continue this exploration. So handing it off to Matthew.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, I'm just taking a moment to notice how the space feels now that we've had a chance to land together and to presence this topic, this huge question around men and women, who we are together, how we relate with one another in all domains, noticing how fundamental that question is in my own life and in the life the people I see around me and how much excitement I feel at the prospect of exploring this question with Jem, Melinda, and Jodi to begin with, before we open it out. The Resonant Man began as a stream of inspiration that emerged between me and Jacob about a year and a half ago, when we began finding out how much shared commitment we had to this work. And I never imagined that I'd be co-facilitating a men's group. But I've also recognized how rich and how powerful the work can be for us men, to be witnessed by other men. I've experienced the fathering that I didn't have. I've experienced the frozenness in my male lineage, going back generations, starting to melt. I've felt witnessed at my core in a way that I'd never experienced before in men's work. And I know that that has supported me to move through the world, and I like to think contribute to the world in a very different way than would have been possible without those activations that I received through that witnessing and resonance with a circle of men. And I'd love to begin by asking more about She Became We. Maybe Melinda, Jem, Jodi, you'd like to offer us some context on how you came together, and what was the intention that really drives your collaboration.
I can start. I'm Jodi. Hello. um, Melinda, we all came together pretty organically. I mean, Melinda had the intention, and then we sort of started as a book club, to be honest. It was just coming together and really feeling like that need of not feeling alone. We're in the jungle. We're moms. Some of them are not moms. We are young. We're older, and we just felt that real need to come together and find a space that was ours. And that was sort of the beginning. Linda, jump in.
Yeah, it really was as simple as that, is
Yeah.
to get out of the house because of what was happening in the world. It was very much about solitude and being sort of enclosed and away from community, friends. And so the desire to not be alone anymore, to have adult conversations. We've been homeschooling our children and teaching them to read or math or do the things that we were doing all day long, to keep a healthy environment for our children. And so the desire to just, for me, it was, I know if I start a book club that isn't about gossip or drinking too much wine or potlucking, that if it was really about a topic, a book, something that I was interested in, that at least I knew there would be a common thread of interest that we could connect through. And the underlying real truth for me was this pull for more sisterhood, more deeper sisterhood. Being in the jungle is very transient, and people coming in and out, testing the jungle, and the jungle tests them back, and then they're out. They move on to a new location or move back to where they're from. And so I had really felt this, desire to anchor in with some sisterhood in a new way. So that really was my guiding light, essentially, was to create a space where I could just connect with other human beings and through an interest. And so that's where we read The Power of Eight with Lynn McTaggart, a couple of books down the line. And her case study after case study after case study of talking about the collective coming together and setting an intention and holding that intention together, created this powerful manifestation tool. And we all just kind of looked at each other and we're like, okay, let's put the book down and let's start testing out exactly what she's talking about. Because my heart desire was to start to guide in meditation. I had already been working with sound as medicine, as a sound practitioner, with biofield tuning and singing bowls and offering that, in my family setting. And so I was ready to expand in that as well. So it just felt very resonant to give it a try, see what happened. And it just kept evolving. And so one day we're talking about, books and writing and interesting topics. And the next day we're sort of on the floor in deep meditation, holding space for one another and cultivating a really powerful connection of sisterhood. And it just keeps blossoming in beautiful ways.
And the journalist in me wants to add the context that I probably should have added at the beginning, that you're all in Costa Rica, right? When you say the jungle, you're in Costa Rica. And this was in the lockdown during the pandemic that it started, and then it evolved in the way you just described. And I love the word sisterhood that you brought forward. Sorry, Jem, you were about to respond as well.
I was just wanting to jump in and say that point as well. I think it's everybody here can take a moment and remember themselves in 2020 and think about and feel into what that experience was like for you. And that was just the tipping point for all of us. And specifically Melinda, to start calling in people to gather. And, we weren't supposed to be doing that at that time. So it was pretty audacious. Like the first time we got together, it was kind of like, we didn't really know each other very well. I sure didn't know anybody. And here we are coming out of this thing that we can all think back to our own experience and remember, okay, so we're coming out of that. And we're sitting in a group and we're going to read a book now, and so I just think it's really important that you remember, or that you're aware that this came kind of at a time of critical mass of loneliness for us.
I could maybe ask the obvious question in a way, which underlies our inquiry, but why an all-women group?
For me, it was simple. I had a lot of sisterhood wounds. I didn't trust women, not the way I wanted to. I trusted my sister and I trusted my mom, the two women that have shown up for me time and time and time again in my life. However, I was just ready to find the depth. I think it was a reflection, right? I was kind of projecting what it is I wanted was deep relationship with other women. But over the years, what I can reflect now and see that it was me wanting a deep relationship with myself, and to be able to express that in the presence, to be witnessed by other women and to share my story and to hear theirs, to know that I'm not alone in this wanting to heal the collective sisterhood wound.
Yeah, when you use that word, sisterhood wound, I already feel my whole system like coming alive, more active. I'm really curious about going deeper into that question, because it feels to me very core to our inquiry. Like, what is the nature of this wound that you describe, and what is the medicine that you found in these groups? I think that will be a question that is being answered maybe in many different ways as we explore further. Certainly on the men's side, we have our own version of that. I spoke about the father wound. I didn't use that term, but certainly that was the big wound that we all carry in some form, that we're all working on. But I wonder if any of you would like to speak a little more to this the nature of this sisterhood wound, which is obviously so core to this impulse to gather in the way you describe.
Yeah, the sisterhood
go ahead,
wound is
Melinda.
different for everyone. Yeah, I'll speak quickly on it because I would love to hear your perspective, Jodi. And the sisterhood wound for me, I can share from my perspective, is that there's different competitive nature in business and sort of appearance, the kind of keeping up with the Joneses mentality. There's different ways that women, historically for me, whether it was deep friendship or in passing, there was always an underlying, for me in my experience, of, am I enough? Am I worthy of this friendship? Is this friendship worthy of me and my energy and my attention? And it was all programming. It felt very collective for me. I had different relationships growing up through the years and adolescence and as a young woman, where we would go through breakups. We're like, I'm tired of you. I can't deal with this anymore. Too much drama. And we would just kind of exit each other's lives. And that felt like an energy that I carried with me into adulthood. And so it felt as if when conflict arose between me and another woman, instead of shutting down and leaving, which is what I historically would do, my desire was to lean into the discomfort, to find resources and tools and communication skills to express my needs, wants, and desires as a woman to another, and to allow the space for us to stay together and to grow together, to lift each other, to be there for each other, not separate myself from you because for whatever reason. And so that's how I can speak to the sisterhood wound for myself. Jodi, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just think that, growing up, we received many, many messages. It's very much out there. If you look at a mean girl's spirit, there's a trust issue that we have with women. It's like we can get so close and then we wonder, are they going to hold us when we really need them? Or are they going to be, when we're honest to them, are they going to hold that with integrity? And so it's something that, we grow up with these questions of, is this a truest type of friendship? How deep will this person be able to hold me? And so a lot of times girls have been, they go behind each other's backs and they, sort of, they misuse mistreat each other. And so, you grow up in that and you get older and you're kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Are we gonna stay in this? Are we gonna really be honest to each other? Can we hold that space? Can I say, no, I don't want to do this with you? Can I say, no, I don't like that you did that and you still stay in this friendship? And so, yeah, there's a lot of that. That's sort of that's kind of the wound. And there's other women that, try to take you down and it's deep. So I think we our circle was to build a space where we can really be honest. And Melinda and I will have conversations and they'll say, are you going to talk after this? And I'm like, of, of course. Absolutely. Yes. So thank you. Jem?
There's a lost art to sisterhood, I think, if you think about the red tent ancestrally, right? How women show up for women. You go into the red tent and you support each other and guide each other and love each other and share wisdom with each other and share stories together. And I think that is the essence of what is present for us in circling as sisters is that we're coming as we are. And the space as the facilitator of the circle, there are pillars, there's a level of integrity, authenticity, and responsibility that I I take personal responsibility in keeping sacred in the essence of what you would find in a red tent, right? Holding each other accountable, honoring through discernment, trusting the process, and so there's a beauty and also a rawness that I think is so important.
Yeah, just wanting to take a moment to make space for what you've just brought. It's quite unusual in a way to hear, I think, in our culture, often women, at least in my experience, speaking so openly about that wound and the sort of shadow, one might say, of the feminine, this competitiveness or this lack of trust. And I just want to invite us all to take a moment to notice how that lands in us. Maybe it touches some of our own wounds, or maybe it invites a deeper level of curiosity. But I would love us to explore deeper in that direction. And of course, I'm holding the question throughout this conversation of how does this affect your relationships with men as well, which maybe we'll come to. But I'm also keen to hand the microphone to Jacob for a moment, because this is obviously an inquiry that we've been deep into in the Resonant Man. I'd love to hear what's on your mind.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I think the first thing I want to say is that a feeling I have that we've been guided in the creation of the Resonant Man. We've been guided in coming together, and like I can feel there's something at stake in this conversation, and that we're also guided together in this moment to begin to hold a space for it. I think we have a lot of intersections here. Some of you are mothers. Obviously, Matthew and I hold an intergenerational space in the Resonant Man as well. I'm 28. Our oldest participant is in his 70s. I think from the very beginning, when I first went to a men's retreat at 23, I had a felt sense of something missing and something about what it means to feel myself and feel myself as a man that I can only discover through the presence of other men, through the witnessing, through the respect, through the friendships. And I think often we create and we bring medicine from the parts where we ourselves were not resourced. And that is 100% the case for me in the context of men's work. I come into this from a place of feeling, wow, I was thoroughly under-equipped as a man to navigate the world, to navigate relationships. And in my experience, I think that there's something fundamentally lacking in our cultural education structures, and that has a flavor of initiation. And you can you can get all your A's, you can get your degrees, you can get the right job, and you can be completely effed in respect to your actual initiatory development. And you can find yourself trapped for years or decades, depending on your soul's journey, in just karmic wounds and battles and entanglements, and really feeling what you ladies are bringing in relationship to the sisterhood wound. But for me, what's most poignant in this is just the wounds between men and women, and the wounds that show up in our deep attachments and the dependencies and the lack of resourcing that we have as men to understand the complexities of relationship, to be supported, to uplift ourselves, and finally just I've spoken to my own sort of lack of resource, but this is a big picture cultural context in which we just don't know, like, how we're supposed to be as men right now. It's so deeply in question and contested, and I think that applies to young men and older men equally. Like, we're all sort of walking the question at the same time, and there's a feeling of like, am I supposed to be, some voices are saying as a man, oh, I need to become more dangerous. I need to, like, embody my warrior energy. Other sides, you need to explore your feminine, become more gentle and delicate. And oftentimes those things can also seem to be like different poles. But there's this kind of possibility space in a really pioneering men's field that can kind of bring all of that together and allow us to explore both, all of those dimensions of our masculinity, and to bring them all out in the unique way that we will. So yeah, that's what excites me in this, is the possibility that I can sort of build the kind of life that allows me to connect in a really wholesome way with, with my future queen, and have that quality of relationship that I want and that I seek, and to have amazing brothers and men, alongside me in that journey.
Well, it's beautiful to be alongside you in the journey, Jacob, in our intergenerational journey. Although I feel like I'm learning more from you than you learn from me. But and I loved what you said about like how the men's work is equipping you or resourcing you or supporting you in relationship to women. And I'm approaching this question from the side of she became we, gradually, slowly. But before I come to it like more directly, I'm still curious to hear more about how you overcome the sisterhood wounds. You've spoken about them with such transparency and courage, actually, to bring that material forward. I would love to hear a little more about how the medicine started to flow, and did it always flow? Were there times when it's been challenging? Because I imagine that it can't always have been easy either.
I'll pop in on that one. I just want to acknowledge everybody who's here. It means so much to see your faces. It's really incredible to share this space with you. So when I jumped into the circle, what I want to say about like the thing you have to get over with the sisterhood wound is I think you have to get over yourself first. And, you know, this thing that I have right now, I prayed for decades. I just wanted more than one female friend that I could trust. I could just get by with one or two and be like, okay, that's all I need. It's good. But I had mostly male friends, and I had to look at that. And it had to do with, being afraid to show myself to other women. So what She Became We did for me, like from the very beginning, I mean, it brought me out of hiding. It brought me out of hiding. And that's pretty courageous, to come out of hiding. I think a lot of women stay in hiding. I think a lot of women are socially reinforced to hide, you know? And so as that started to happen, I'll tell y'all, it was effing disruptive is what it was. Because coming out of hiding, it messes up all your relationships as they know you to be. And, so I'd love to just shine a little bit of light on that aspect of what She Became We did. It's disruptive. It disrupted all of my relationships, specifically my partnership and marriage. And that's where you need a circle for those disruptions, because as you start to fall apart and put yourself back together, you need a foundation to hold you, and So we've all done that. We've all seen each other in pieces, and working through another societally reinforced thing that we could do is just to give advice to each other and say what I think you should do. Well, no, having the love and the faith in that person that they're going to put themselves back together in only the way that their soul's essence knows it wanted to be this whole time. So the foundation of being witnessed through all of that is what allowed me to put myself together in my own heart's desire, in my own soul's expression. I believed in it because they believed in it. They said, I see you. Melinda would track me and say, I see what I see what you're doing. I'm in to have someone invested in you when you've been hiding most of your life and you have a core wound of being invisible anyway. It was powerful. And that's why we're so adamant. That's why we're She Became We, because we believe that's what every woman should be able to experience. Complete. Thank you.
We love you, Jem. So much.
Yeah, if I can add to, there's the bonding that Jem is kind of referring to.
Mhm.
Bonding that happens is through commitment to showing up.
Mm.
And so, although the sisterhood wound runs deep, and that's okay because we're here for it, right? We're showing up now to shine the light on where there's opportunity for healing to take place. But it's the not just showing up for this collective. It's coming out of hiding. It's being seen and heard. It's less about giving advice and more about listening. It's really about listening. Oftentimes, we just don't have someone in our life that's present in the listening. And I think that's a beautiful offering to circles when we all show up and we hear what's being said and take it in and kind of reflect back what I'm hearing you say. If I can offer you my perspective, these kinds of ways of communicating with each other, very intentional. So yes, sometimes from the older women, we hear the deeper wisdom, coming through because of life experience, but we're also just as much getting the impactful, life-changing wisdom coming from the younger generation, the 30s. Jacob, your generation is bringing such potent medicine into these circles. So this revealing of self is what is allowing this deeper trauma or wound or what's here to be healed to have a space.
Yeah, and I'm feeling how much is resonating in me as you speak. Like I felt so moved, Jem, by what you were saying about your emergence and the disruption and the courage that took. And I could feel the joy and the fulfillment and the reality of your transformation was shining and so palpable. And equally, this description, Melinda, of the group or the circle is like in my mind, an alchemical vessel. Like it's a transformational space where you don't leave the same as you came in. It's a like we talk about the resonant man as a spaceship, a spaceship. Like it's a spaceship. It's a space, but it takes us somewhere else from where we are. And I just want to invite everyone to take a little moment to check in with themselves and notice what's coming alive in you as you're hearing this very intimate and courageous exploration of these deep processes. There may be different levels that are responding, or you might notice emotions, maybe resistance, maybe questions, but with such rich shares, so much being brought forward. I'm just inviting us to take a moment as a group here, perhaps feeling our shared awareness, perhaps feeling there is a sense of a we in this space here together, joined by this shared intention to explore these deep questions, to approach these wounds that we have been speaking of. And just allowing us to hold that together, whatever's alive in you, being with that together, digesting together. I'm feeling excited about the wisdom and the possibility of what might come through as we dive a little deeper. And I have many more questions for Jem, Melinda, and Jodi, but I'd like to see if there's anyone in the space who'd like to raise a question, share something about what's coming up for them in relation to this inquiry. Our intention to explore how can this work that we're doing, the work you're hearing about in these men's and women's spaces, how can that contribute to transformation in the culture, whatever that might mean to you? That's the arrow that we've fired at the start of this session to guide our inquiry. If anyone has anything they want to bring forward, a question for any of us, then the space is open. I think we're a small enough group. You don't need to raise a hand. You can just jump in if you feel an impulse to speak.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying it's been a real treat to share this space with you all from She Became We. I'm still pretty new in the resonant man space, so I'm still dipping my toes into that world. And so yeah, to be invited into this space has been really beautiful. I just had like a wellspring of emotion come up when Jem was talking about her experience coming out of hiding and kind of reconciling with, the fact that she had, almost all male friends, and kind of like having this self-inquiry about why that was, and opening up into, the space with other women, and like really being allowed to, to be seen. I think that's why I joined the Resonant Man, is because I recognized that I had almost all exclusively female friends. And I knew why that was. Like, it's a very obvious reason for me why that was. And so I think I told myself for quite some time that like I wasn't in hiding, because I had like kind of unearthed a lot of that in like a one-on-one therapeutic context, and like with my female friends. But I think I realized that I was still kind of lying to myself, that I wasn't bringing this to other men. And I was still really afraid to do that. And there were still all these labels and stereotypes that I had of men, given what I went through as a child with my own father. And so for me, this journey is, and I really love how kind of all of you have talked about how ultimately this is about your relationship with yourself. Not that the relation, obviously, given that you're, and we're all in this space, the relationship with other people is so important, but like inevitably you come up against your own, the ways in which you talk to yourself about what you feel is right or wrong, and what you can share or what you can't share, or what you can be or what you can't be. And I think that witnessing that we've all kind of talked about is like, it it starts to rewire your brain to say, when I share this, it doesn't get squashed or doesn't get dismissed or doesn't get judged. It gets affirmed and it gets recognized and it gets resonated with. And that is like, I've had experiences with that in like other kind of circles or authentic relating spaces, but to have it in a specifically male space has been, yeah, it's been really powerful so far, and I can't wait to continue to do it. So I'm sorry, I don't have a question. I just wanted to wanted to offer that.
That's a beautiful offering, receiving that and really feeling the gratitude for your presence in the Resonant Mat, Michael. It's been great to welcome you into our circle, and you brought so much to us already in the short time you've been with us. And I think I can recognize something of myself. I've had periods where I've had female friends, and I've also noticed that rewiring that you've spoken about, that I can start to access not just parts of myself, but like, I think like who I really am when I'm witnessed with that depth, with that lack of judgment, or that impulse to offer advice, or that fixing that we can all default into so easily. And it's so simple, such a simple resource that this is the, I'm a journalist, and I always think this is the front page news. It should be on the front page of every paper. Like, if we just witness each other, then amazing things can happen. But the culture is organized mostly very differently. And we have to, I think the word conditioning was used earlier. We have to find ways to release that conditioning and relate a little differently. I also had a moment to just notice as well how much capacity there is in this space. Michael was speaking to the resourcing and the joy of being here, but I'm also noticing there's men and women in this space who've been doing this work a lot longer than I have. And I want to say, wow, like, thank you for being here and bringing that wisdom and that presence, which is really supporting us to inquire. I'm wondering if any ladies from She Became We would like to respond to Michael or offer anything into the space.
I just wanted to say, as far as the witnessing goes, that's a big part of it. And we do it, we show up weekly, we're committed to this. And the shedding is over time. It's sort of, we shed into this, into the ones that were always there. We were always there. And the allowance of vulnerability, deep vulnerability. That's a thing I feel like with men, it's quite hard to tap into. And I'm just elated that you guys are in this and want to learn about, all of this. And as we want to learn about you guys. So yeah, I think that's part of it. That's a big part of it. But that showing up is huge.
Yeah, and everyone showing up here today is huge. Thank you. I'm going to go to a question I'm seeing from Jordan in the chat here, which I'm going to throw out. What medicine can we find in traditional gender roles? And what medicine can we find in transcending those roles in both tradition and transcendence together and beyond? And I'm going to even go to the fourth question here, see if we can handle all of these. And how do we encode this medicine in stories and maps to pass on to our children in a way they can understand? Wow. That's the question that takes us to the next level, Jordan. And I know for those who don't know Jordan, he is a pioneering leader of men's work. And we are honored to have him in our space today. Even though we can't see you, Jordan, we feel your energy and your benevolence. So thank you for those very deep questions. Yeah, we'll just go. I'll just float them again to see how they percolate into the space. What medicine can we find in traditional gender roles and from transcending those roles? And how do we pass that medicine on? Jem, I'm seeing your hand.
Oh, wow. That's so alive for me right now. So alive for me. I just dropped my son off at school for I had him for 6 or 7 weeks. But in a work meeting, yes, the traditional gender roles, and Melinda and Jodi are going to back me on this because I know how wild they are as mothers also and how they love. And my traditional gender role of being a mother is what I'll go to to the end with. And I was saying to some workers that I collaborate with that my son is in front. He's in front all the time. It's with the way that time goes and how fast it's happening, he's in front, and the wellspring of love that comes from tapping into that for me infuses me with something I didn't even know I had. And that infusion I carry into other things. But I'll tell you, when he turned 10 and he did that thing where he's like, I don't need to be nurtured anymore by you. That was one of the most heartbreaking and hardest things for me to go through. But again, that was him, as my guide, giving me permission to put that nurturing into me. And so when I say that that infusion I'm talking about, that's coming back to me right now. And it's allowing me to show up to all of the visions that percolated as a mother who's thinking about the future in a way that I don't want to say only mothers can, but anyone who's a parent on this call, you know what I'm talking about. And that's a forward 7 generation. And then there's the backward generation of what your child shows you as you're raising them about the thing that you did or did not get that you're giving them or not giving them, right? So the traditional gender role has everything, all of the medicine in it to me, including the recipe to transcend it.
Can I add to that as well? Yes, Jem, I am with you on everything that you said in terms of the children, what they're teaching us. So when I see the question, what medicine can we find in traditional gender roles? I think the medicine is the ancestral information, what's carried through, what we are aware of or not aware of that has programmed or paved the path for our parents. We all have one or two that have taught us about ourselves, what we're capable of, what our emotional awareness is to some degree or not. And we've learned to create who we are based on that information. And so how can we transcend that is the willingness, the openness to allow the children in our life, whether they're ours or someone else's, to reflect back to us what their needs are, what they're ready to learn, and how we can show up for them in that, and to create presence. Because I think, and I can speak for myself, the gift of presence is what is healing, and allowing the transcendence to take place, so that the new information that we're bringing, how we're showing up now, is what's encoding our future generations to also show up for their community, for their children, for their partner, for whoever is dear to them, and to be of service, right? And so there's a healing and being of service, and that is something that I hold really, really close to my relationship, my bond with my own children, is being the role model that I didn't have, And that's not from a place of judgment. That's just literally from what can I bring now to the table, knowing what I know. So it's a great responsibility and not one that I'm shying from. And I think that has a lot to do with being in safe spaces and cultivating safe spaces and community for myself, and showing my children that it's not just me, but it's community that raises them. And so we're always learning.
I love that we presence the children and the ancestors in this latest turn of the spiral of our dialogue. In the Resonant Man this month, we are exploring ancestry and identity. And as I sit here now, I have an awareness that there are many more with us, watching us, willing us to overcome or resolve or find the medicine for these wounds, whether they be wounds between brothers, wounds between sisters, wounds between men and women, children and parents. These are fractals, these are patterns that have been passed down generation to generation to generation. And for us to be here as men and women together in a space where we are being transparent, where we are sharing our raw experience in this way, is healing for our children and for those that came before. I really feel that with every fiber in me, and I feel maybe others have a sense of that too. Honoring those ancestors. I want to pass it over to Jacob for a moment. I know Jacob is always, you always have wisdom beyond your years. How do you manage it? I know I'm not the only person asking myself that question.
I'm not responsible for that. My internet's a bit choppy now, but I want to, I kind of sort of want to put a question to the group at this moment and just inquire into, if there's something important that is present in the field that has not been present yet in this conversation, to invite that in. And my sort of second question also is, I would love to hear from people in the space who are participating in this work about the tangible impact that it's having in your relationships, past, present, and future right now. So, yeah, Jordan Bates, love to, sorry, I didn't see there was another hand, but Jordan, please go ahead. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's late here in Germany. I'm at the gym. That's why I haven't been on the video, but it's been beautiful to tune into this conversation. I'm very grateful. Thank you all for the lovely contributions. And yeah, I guess for me, I wanted to briefly speak to the questions that I posed. Jacob just posed more beautiful questions, but I just posed those and then I was just contemplating on them, and I thought it might be valuable to share a couple of reflections, which for me are showing up as there's obviously a lot of conflict around gender roles going on in our world right now. There's a lot of people reacting very strongly against traditional gender roles, and there's a lot of people reacting very strongly against the transcendence of traditional gender roles, right? And so for me, I guess what I would invite is just an openness to the possibility that transcendence is happening for a reason, and the anchoring to tradition is also happening for a reason, and that there are wise impulses in both of those movements, and that really both kind of represent impulses to explore the modes of tradition and what wisdom can be gained and integrated there, and impulses to explore the modes of the new and the unknown, and what might be possible outside of the maps we've received and the wisdom that's been encoded. And I think if we could all just more fully honor everyone's exploration and just understand that we never know another person's experience. We don't know why they're being called to that exploration of tradition or to the transcendence of tradition. And for me, it seems like a rich space to move into for me feels like transcend and include, transcend and honor, continue to include and honor the best of tradition and hold that very dear and close to our hearts, even as we allow ourselves to explore what has not been explored yet and discover new gems and new possibilities and new modes of adaptation and fluidity and shape shifting that may be necessary in a strange future to adapt to a rapidly changing landscape. And so, yeah, for me, that just kind of opened up this feeling like, yes, there's so much to include from the past and pass on to our children. And there is new wisdom being unearthed and discovered now that we also want to pass on to our children, and just honoring the full field of that discovery and exploration. So, yeah, much love.
Yeah, great to hear from you, Jordan. And just taking a moment to honor the work you've been doing and that I've been experiencing through your medicine container and Council of Kings, which really embodies the combination of those different aspects. And we've gone from such like tender-hearted, sacred, inner child loving, sharing about our parents and upbringings to, full warrior, like, let's fucking get it, like, let's build kind of energy. And it's so important to be able to hold those together in one space. And the other piece that you really brought to light for me that I think is important to voice here, both in the context of men and women's work, is the idea of the slow cook. This transformation, this conversation is not going to be a shotgun fix. It's not a 3-month flash transformative coaching container kind of thing. It is about building things to last, building long-term spaces, institutions, values that people can initiate in continuously at different stages of their journey. Yeah. Did we have another hand, Matthew?
I think Barney, did you have
Yes.
to offer? And I'd just like to say it's great to see you here. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Hi there. I'm Barney. This is my first time one of these sessions, so thanks to Matt and everyone for welcoming me in, and thanks for sharing so many personal insights. I have a question that I fear may be excessively solutions oriented, but bear with me. Just listening to your comments about sisterhood wounds. I'm the father of a 9-year-old daughter who right now is in this schoolyard maelstrom of, tumultuous relationships with her friends that includes some of the things you mentioned, people going behind each other's backs, mean and nasty comments, people who are dividing friendship groups, them against stuff. It's all very difficult. I wanted to ask Jodi and Melinda and Jem, with the benefit of the wisdom and hindsight you have now, what would you tell your 9 or 10-year-old selves, if anything, about how to kind of get through these situations?
You can take this. I have 3 girls, 13, 12, and 10. So I see some of the things that I've been talking about extended upon them. One of the things we do a lot of is I work with some of the moms. I go to the moms and I bring the girls together with the moms or dads. I would do it with either. And we have conversations, we have deep conversations about, hey, that felt really bad. My daughter will say that felt bad, or the other friend will say, yeah, it did. What can we do that might be a little bit better? So it can extend itself really well with parents. Getting closer to the girls as well. Typically I have 3, and then 2 more girls will come into the party, and I'll have 6 girls at a time. And I kind of come in and say, how's everybody doing, in a way that sort of they become comfortable with me being around. And it's not that they're going to open up to me, but they know that my presence is there. And that if they wanted to talk, or if they had something, that I'm open. I'm an open invite as a woman that's older that might have some insight. So I try to keep it that they feel safe and trust me as well in their guidance and their journey, because I think it's important for us to come together as parents and really try to do this together, partner in it. So that's just a suggestion, small suggestion.
And if I can add to that, because I also have a daughter, she's 14,
Yeah.
and we're going through lots of hormonal shifts and changes. And it does start, as early as 9, 10, we start to see things changing physically, bigger emotions, lots of more dramatic responses to seemingly as an adult, something not that big of a deal. And so it's really holding the love, I think, is a part of it, not trying to fix right away, in letting conversations, I think they're learning how to resolve conflict between each other. And as Jodi's saying, being able to hold the space for that to take place is really powerful. And when the children are able to see the parents are staying connected regardless, because it can get a little sticky sometimes. Your child spoke to my child this one way, and I feel protective over my child, so I'm going to feel protective against you, and kind of break that bond of parenthood, collaboration and teamwork. And so just kind of circling back to the story I told earlier about the two, my daughter and her friend, who are really close and bonded now because they've worked through so many different conflicts together. The connection that I made with the mom was, they need the modeling. When we see each other, I'm hugging you. I'm not, I'm connecting with you. I'm talking with you. And we're keeping our sisterhood bond strong so that they can have a model of what that looks like. And so I can add that in. If it's a matter of connecting with the parents because the conflict is really intense and deep, or if it's a matter of holding space, like Jodi saying, like, I'm here if anybody needs to talk, and you got this. It really is valuable to add into the sphere of growth, by not being reactive or triggered by your children's experience, which is so hard as a parent, because you want to drop in and be protective of them. So that would be my 2 cents, I guess.
Yeah, I love how we're transforming the culture right now by sharing this wisdom from our circles. But I'd love to ask the question that I think Jem posed in the chat. If any of the women who haven't spoken or would like to offer anything that they would have said to their own 9-year-old self, I wonder if anyone else would like to add to this. It's such a rich inquiry and opportunity to support Barney with this really painful process that his daughter's in. I wonder if any of the other women have anything they'd offer to their 9-year-old self.
I would like to say something, because I lived in a different time, I think, to many people. I'm 70 now, so and I started going to women's groups, which were more feminist women's groups at that time in my 20s. And certainly when I was a 9-year-old, I was the eldest of 5 children living out in the country, in rural England, and going to a very small school, and mainly just playing with my sisters and my brothers at home. And so the arguments and divisions and difficulties were between us rather than other families, and the other families we saw weren't, there weren't so many issues in that way. But I have a daughter, and I did exactly what I think Jodi said. which was the girls came round to my house. So I would have a sitting room full of girls shrieking and giggling and having a ball, and, you know, and they would just join in, and I was around, and I did the same. Are you all okay? How's life? You know, do you want some more drinks, or is there anything I can do for you guys? And, you know, that kind of thing. So it was, yeah, and she's a woman of 39 now with her own 2 boys, living in the States, dealing with her own isolation of being a mother at home. And I feel for her, you know, going through that, which is very different from my experience of living in a small rural town in the UK and bringing up my children here, my husband working, a very traditional relationship of 50 years of marriage. So yeah, coming from, you know, there's lots in there, but I've been part of sisterhood groups and community groups and women's groups for 50 years. And I suppose I long for the time. I mean, I don't know how I arrived here, but an email appeared in my inbox, and I thought that looks really interesting. I feel like I walked into a sort of almost private party, because you all seem to mostly know each other.
No. You're very welcome, Liz. It's great that you found your way here. Some of us know each other, but some of us don't. Yeah.
But I long for the time, having, after my husband died, I was brave enough to have another relationship, which sadly just has sort of coming to the end in the last couple of weeks. So that's a loss that I'm going through at the moment. But I would love to really come to a time when we can really speak honestly with each other, men and women, and listen to each other. I would love that to be a time. And I think particularly in, you know, our intimacies and our close relationships, having had, you know, now 53 years of relationships, I have felt a loss of that. And I felt that I haven't quite worked it out. How do I get that right? How do I work on myself and understand myself and come from my own true and authenticity and honesty? And how do I be with someone who does the same? You know, I want interdependence in a relationship. I want equality. And as yet, I haven't fully experienced that. I've had moments of it. I've had times when I've thought I was in it, and then something happened to make me feel, oh no, I was, you know, they complained about my behavior, or I felt that their behavior wasn't acceptable. You know, so anyway, it can go on forever. But that's kind of where I am at, and why I'm here, because I'm thinking, oh, this is something quite interesting now that maybe, you know, we can explore. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And Liz, it's just great to hear your voice and really feeling that longing for interdependence. I feel that longing too, and I'm sure many of us do share that longing here, and I really appreciate you voicing that in the way that you did. It's very powerful to hear that spoken in that way. And Katja, I'd love to bring you in. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm quite nervous. When I was 9 years old, my parents were separated, and I lived with my dad. And it would have helped me. There's nothing I could tell my 9-year-old. It would have helped me if an adult would have noticed that I had problems. So I think there is medicine in just being present, and maybe not trying to solve it, but just be with that pain, that result that comes from having difficulties in friendships. And yes, so I think it's really, and maybe it was the time that I grew up in the early 70s, where in Germany, where, you know, my parents were really not really in touch with themselves. So how can you be there for a child if you don't feel yourself? And if I may, I would also like to say something that Michael posted, saying that it seems to be fairly, that the sisterhood wounds and the brotherhood wounds are fairly similar. And I think that to me that rings really true. And also for me, the gender roles, whether they be traditional or not, or the traditional ones, really also for me have a flavor of, it's a way of controlling and of power over, that I find difficult. And I think we need to transcend, that needs to be transcended. So if it's in the traditional natural way, then I think it's less problematic. If it's traditional in the way we live in our society, I think there are really restrictions, or there are certain expectations that come with being a woman, being a man. And for me, it's been getting in touch with what it really means for me to be a woman, where I realize that a lot of ways I act out in this world are very male. They're not the female essence. So it's coming into touch with that, looking at it, realizing that's what it is, and then seeing how can I be more myself. And I think that's true possibly for each of us, whether we're man or woman or identify in another way, is how can we really be truly ourselves and shine as bright as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Katja. Wow. I loved your last line there. How can we be truly ourselves and shine as bright as we can? What a beautiful question. And I think that's a question that's at the core of the work we're doing in the Resonant Man, and in, I dare say, for She Became We. And this is one of the beautiful things that I've really discovered about this kind of work, is that I think from the outside, I might have assumed that working in a group could almost have a flattening effect, that somehow if I was in a group, I'd be conforming to the values of the group. But actually, in my experience, it's been exactly the opposite, that I've felt much more myself in the context of a supportive group, and actually much more able to perceive the true unique signature of other people in a way more deeply in this kind of environment than in a lot of the kinds of interactions that happen according to our usual cultural scripts. And that's the radical invitation in a way that this work offers. And I'm feeling so much moving in my system. I feel energized. I feel a lot of data looking for a place to land within me that I've been receiving from everyone over the last almost 90 minutes. And we're going to try to keep to time, even though it feels like we've only just begun our exploration. It feels like we've literally just started to scratch the surface. But I'd love to give the speakers from both the Resonant Man, of course, and She Became We a chance to reflect or offer anything that wants to be spoken as we we start to draw this space to a close. So I'd like to pass over to maybe Melinda, Jem, Jodi, whether you have something you'd like to offer in response to what's been said, or in response to our question. How does this work transform culture, particularly this year of 2025?
I'll start.
Go, Jodi.
Yeah. It's a big question. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, look, I think the individual, as we continue to move into our individual self, becoming more of who we are, our sovereign independence, knowing what we want, knowing where we want to go, this is what's going to transcend us, knowing, what we need, seeing each other fully, being vulnerable with one another, being able to share, with each other in a vulnerable way. All of these things for me is what continues, is what makes us, it's what moves us into the next place. So we have to continue this work. Like, it's really, really powerful, and it's really, really important. Jem, you say something. I'm complete.
Love that. I love the energy with what you're saying right there. I just want to drop in a word, which is inclusivity. I think inclusivity is really bringing people, making people feel like they're welcome, bringing more people in. Like, what we're trying to do right now is expand about.
Yeah.
Well, and that's difficult because one thing I did want to say that we didn't get to was that we do have similarities in our groups from what I know of them, which are interesting. And like, for example, we both work with tarot, even though it seems like we do it in different ways, but tarot is like such a big part of our circling. So maybe another time we can talk about that. But the other thing is we cap our group, we close it. And that has been like a hard thing for us to navigate in past years because other people want in, and we're like, oh, but we can't let more people in because we have to keep that sacred container, and we don't let people leave and come back either. Like, we're pretty much, we're holding it that way. And so we're looking at other ways through events and through retreats to help people come in and feel included and like get some of our sauce, but then inclusivity of all the parts that you are. So inclusivity is the word I just want to drop in.
And I'll just drop in the word community, right? This is the desire, hold that close, to build community. What that looks like for you, building community with yourself first, right? How can you be in community with yourself, with all the parts of you, and in your wholeness? And then how can you extend that into build a community that is the most supportive and offers the resources that are keeping the needle moving, as Jodi's saying, the movement is key. So thank you so much. This is such a beautiful conversation, and looking forward to extending it.
Thank you. Thank you. Passing over to Jacob.
Yeah. Gosh, the temptation to include more is definitely present with me. Footnotes for conversations 2, 3, and 4. But I guess I just want to kind of stand for the philosophical depth of this as well. And I don't mean that in an abstract way, like the necessity of actually having a deep dialogue together and passing these things out and understanding what we value, and what these things mean to us. And there are so many, points of polarity in the culture that have to be navigated in a carefully held space. Even the question of inclusion, I counterpose that with the virtue of exclusion as well, and creating a space that, we filter for who's really, really earnestly coming in here. and also too with respect to tradition, thinking about my dialogues with Nick, you know, these questions go really deep, and they're also religious questions. They're questions about how we integrate, reject, transform, and evolve our religious inheritances, and a lot of our cultural foundations are built there. So that's a really deep piece that has to be held in this space as well. But I'm astonished at this space. This has been more than I could have hoped for, and wonderful to have so many friends and allies and co-journeyers here with us today as well. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. And also, Stephanie, thank you for your beautiful comment and bringing in your 9-year-old self with her love of painting, dancing, communing with nature. It's beautiful to read that from you. Really appreciate you bringing that. I have a 7-year-old daughter, so it's a topic very close to my heart as well. Well, I guess we're starting to land now. I can see the landing lights on the runway after another flight of Resonant Man, joined by She Became We. Maybe just taking a moment to take a few moments together to feel grounded, feel connected to the space. Maybe taking a breath, noticing your breathing, making a little space together to digest all that's been shared in this space. So much experience, wisdom, hard-earned, medicine, transformation, difficult stories, but also stories showing how much is possible when we tap into this capacity that we have to really witness one another, to see each other, to be with each other without agenda, without attachment to how they should be or how we should be. Just sharing this primordial awareness together. I like to take a moment to appreciate the gratitude I feel for this time together, for the support that we've received on so many levels, and to recognize how much is possible when we let this collective intelligence flow. We're closing the session now, but we'll be on the screen for a few more minutes. But the session is officially closed, and our links to all our initiatives are in the chat for those who want to find out more, who aren't already following. And I also want to extend my warm thanks to everybody for bringing yourselves, your presence, your earnest participation. It's felt very meaningful for this initiative to be such a space of warmth and connection today. Thank you, everybody. See you, Katja. See you.
Bye.
Bye, Katja. See you.
Bye.
Feel free to take your mics off if you want to say goodbye. It's good to hear your voices. Cheers, Bonnie. See you.
See ya.
See you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, great to see you. Nick, good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. See you. Great to connect. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you found us. Come again.
Partly, yeah.
Michael,
Blessings, everyone.
thank you for your contribution.
Bye.
Great to see you.
Thank you for holding the space.
Yeah, thank you.
See
Thank
you
you, man.
on,
See you on
yes,
Sunday.
See you on Sunday. Yeah. Thank you, Jodi.